Looking to stock up on high-quality Ayurvedic herbs? I've partnered with two of my trusted sources, Kerala Ayurveda and Gary and Son, to offer you 20% off their entire range of authentic products. From classical formulas to single herbs and seasonal must-haves, these are staples I use in my own practice. Use code Ojas Oasis for Kerala Ayurveda, Ojas Oasis 20 for Gary and Son. Links are in the show notes. Supporting your healing journey just got a little bit easier. In Ayurveda, nourishment isn't only about what we take in for the body, but also what we offer the heart. That's why we're honored to share Aura Cacao, a ceremonial grade cacao we've chosen as a dharmic partner for the Ojas Oasis community. Aura Cacao supports meditation, heart-opening rituals, and moments of conscious presence. As an exclusive gift for our listeners, use Ojas Oasis 20 for 20% off, and you'll find the link in the show notes. Welcome to Ojas Oasis, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets the modern being. I'm your host, Sasha Brzezinski, Ayurvedic doctor and guide on this journey into the heart of holistic wellness. In today's conversation, I sit down with Penn King Jr., a holistic transformation coach, health tech innovator, and CEO of Bonding Health, to explore a radically different approach to ADHD, focusing on emotional regulation, trauma, and mental health. Penn is also a dear friend of mine. We met freshman year at Syracuse University in English class. Our connection deepened when I announced I was raising money to run the New York City Marathon for charity. Penn donated $1,000 on the spot, making it possible for me to run the marathon at all. That generosity marked the beginning of an 18-plus year friendship, rooted in trust, respect, support, and shared values. Today, Penn is leading a movement that challenges the conventional ADHD model. Rather than overstimulating the brain or defaulting to medication, he shares why slowing the brain down, strengthening neuroplasticity, and rethinking emotional regulation may be the key to lasting healing for children and adults alike. In this conversation, we explore why traditional ADHD treatments may be missing the root cause, how trauma, stress, and emotional dysregulation shape behavior, the science behind calming the nervous system, how the Bonding Health app empowers families through warmth, play, and connection, why asking, "What is my child communicating?" changes everything. This episode is for parents, educators, health professionals, and anyone curious about holistic mental health, ADHD alternatives, neuroplasticity, and integrative healing. If you're ready to move beyond Band-Aid solutions and explore what true regulation and resilience look like, this conversation will change how you see mental health. Discover why slowing down might be the fastest path forward. Let's get to our chat.
We've known each other for almost 20 years, so it's so easy. It feels as if where we left off was today, every time. So it's so special to be here with you. I'm really excited about it. And we're so aligned, so it's like a super fluid conversation always. So very proud to be here. Very proud to be here.
We were so everyone, ladies and gentlemen, I have Penn King on the show. First of all, I want to welcome you to Ojas Oasis. It's been a long time in the making to have you on, and today's finally the day.
Woo! Woo! What a beautiful day to be on here. You're in Austin now.
I'm in Austin, and you're in New York.
I'm so glad that you're in Austin because it's a great place.
Well, I can't wait to host you. You've been hosting me for years in New York. And for folks listening, we were just having this really beautiful reunion moment and a pause before we jump into Penn and the work that he's been doing in the health tech space. We were just kind of reflecting on, like he said, almost 20 years of friendship. Penn and I met freshman year at Syracuse back in 2007. Was it 2007? I can't even believe that. 2007. He was
2007.
in my English class.
That is, yep. You were a rock star in that class. I remember.
I was
You
the
were
nerd in the front row, per usual.
killing it.
And then let's let the listeners know also what I was doing freshman year at Syracuse, which was training for my first marathon. This is how it all began with me and Penn. So, how it all began was I was raising money to run. So, there's a couple different ways to run in the New York City Marathon. It's a very popular marathon, it's very hard to get into. One of those ways is to raise money for a charity. And I had decided I was going to run the marathon about 6 weeks before the marathon. And so I had to not only train for a marathon in 6 weeks, I also had to raise like $2,600 or something like that. And let's just say, had I not known Penn, I would not have run that marathon because he was such an incredible source of support for me. Here I go. I might get emotional. Yeah, it's an opportunity to say thank you. And what that meant to me at that time, it was a huge dream to run that marathon. Huge dream. And I don't even know how I did it. I don't know how I trained for it, but I do know how I did it, and it's because in huge part, yes, I trained, yes, I showed up, yes, I did all those things, but Penn believed in me from day one, and we didn't even know each other all that well, but each week we'd come to class, and we would just giggle and have such a great time in class and then hang out afterward. And then that friendship just, I can't explain it, but some bonds, hint, hint, bonds, because we're going to get into his company in a second, but some bonds are hard to describe, hard to explain. They just are, they just exist. And something that Penn was saying right before we hit the record button was it feels like we've known each other for lifetimes and we're picking up where we left off. And what a special thing, what a special gift to have a friend like you in my life. So to bring you on the show and to get to shine a light on you and to support you in your work, I can't tell you what an honor and a privilege it is to be able to finally be like, you know what, Penn, come over to Austin, let me host you, and let me tell you how amazing you are and how much I respect your work. And it has to be this flow of admiration and mutual respect. I think it's actually a foundation in long-term friendships, like lifelong friendships, because we change as human beings so much of life. Like life changes, like you move in so many different directions, but when you have such a core bond where you have the same values and you have all these years of history of showing up for one another, I mean, you just can't replace that with anything. Time reveals so many things. And for me, it's just
So
revealed like we are lifelong friends. And so I'm just going to start the conversation there and let listeners know that, this is not just someone off, you know, the cuff that I have brought in because I love their work. Yes, I love Penn's work, but I also just love Penn as a human being, and I love that I get to introduce him to our community and any chance I can to just let you know how much I love you.
oh, that was so heartfelt. I feel so much gratitude to be on this podcast. As you know, I've been such a huge believer in your work, your passion, your intelligence, your authenticity. So it is so special to be here as a source of support. And obviously, it's super special to be in the same domain, to be trying to help the world, help people who really need the support and don't have the education to know about Ayurveda or different tools for your emotions or stress relief. And it's been so beautiful seeing and listening to your knowledge over the years and soaking up about 10% of it, but still just being so curious, such a curiosity for what you're doing. So I'm so happy to be on here and to answer any questions your audience may have or questions I know that you've come up with. So I'm so grateful. I really am. I'm so grateful to be here on the podcast. I'm so happy I've been doing this for a couple of years now. What am I one? What is it? What
So
number is
this is going
this?
to be episode 123.
My goodness, that's amazing.
Isn't
That's
that
amazing.
wild?
I remember when you were telling me you're like, hey, I'm gonna start a podcast, and of course I was like, whoa, you're gonna do it. I know you are. And then 120 episodes later, wow, that's beautiful. That's so special.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
Wow.
you've been a witness through this whole journey ever since I started. And you've always done that same thing you just did, which was you clapped. You were just cheering me on. And not all of us have like strong family base to do that for us. Some of us really do need that tribal support to come from our chosen family, our friends. And I'm one of those people. Like I really truly for my emotional support totally rely on my friendships. So when it comes in such a pure way from such an incredible human being like you, I can't tell you how much it fills me. It just like this wave of like, oh, thank you. Like I'm like I need that. I do, all of us. No matter if you, even the most confident people you may think, "Oh, she doesn't need to hear that. Look at what she's doing," or that doesn't mean that I'm not a sensitive mush on the inside and that I'm a human being. I also need like yeah, I do. I emotionally very like connected to my I don't know, just the same things that all of us are, which is like the self
True words of
affirmation.
affirmation, the true words of affirmation and authenticity, knowing that someone really does believe in you is so powerful. I agree. I could not agree
Yeah.
more. Especially when you're doing this kind of work, you are very original and are a very novel and innovative thinker. So when you're doing this work, I can only imagine because you're at even a deeper depth of the sea when it comes to some of these modalities and the technicalities associated with them. But when you're focused on these levels of depth, I know it can be very lonely and very challenging to have a conversation about some sort of micro technicality within some sort of right um, component or portion
Yes.
of your work. And you might not have anyone to talk to about that. And I think it brings up a really interesting concept that I think a lot of people struggle with who have incredible knowledge. And it's a huge reason why you see a lot of professors or a lot of individuals who have incredible depth and intelligence growing massive beards or going into isolation. Like you have these brilliant thinkers and it's totally aligned with what you're saying is community or having a cheerleader or two, even one or two is so important. So it's amazing to see you go the commercial route to an extent because it's so important for people who may be where you were 5 years ago or maybe where you were 7 years ago who have this incredible depth, but they don't have the validation from anyone else to say, let me keep going. And so much of our work is continuing, persevering, being resilient. When you know that in your heart it's right, but maybe you're not getting the fan base or the fan club, you have to keep going. So it's really beautiful that you said that because I think we are in such a loneliness culture right now and this loneliness epidemic. And it's so critical for us to stand up and for the people who are courageous to step into that even more because it does create this effect. And you may not get the likes from you may not get the hearts or
Hmm.
whatever it is, but the reality is people are watching and people are
Hmm.
following and you're a leader. And because of that, it's so important what you're doing. Like there are people, you may not see it, like, but underneath, people are seeing it. It's manifesting. The frequency is heightening. That's heightening other people's frequency who may be in a lower level or lower state of mind, or lower density or lower dimension. They're getting heightened from what you're doing. So from both of us. So it's been so special to feel like on the same frequency with someone. It's very unique. I would say it's extremely rare. And I definitely think we both have that. We're on the same frequency. We've kind of always been on that frequency. And it's special to now be older, and I certainly feel like I get in my way less. And I think there's such an importance of understanding that everything is within us, and really believing that and understanding that and knowing that there's so much joy and bliss that's within us, and we just have to find it and search for it. And some days are a little more challenging. And anyway, just talking to you is benefiting a lot of other people. So
I
there's a lot
I
to
totally
unpack there.
agree.
I know we
I
kind of just kept
totally
going. We
agree.
can free flow.
We totally can. I also want to, do right by you in honoring the work that you've been building, the body of work that you've been building behind the scenes for 5 years, which is Bond Health. And I want to make sure we have enough time and fuel in the tank to really get into this passion, this dharmic, business that you've started. And I think it's a very relevant topic. Speaking about the loneliness in the culture, that is so true. And I think so much of it does have to do with, that's mental health. I mean, we're going to be talking about ADHD today, specifically with children that are diagnosed really early on with this. And we could say the mismanagement of it or just the misunderstanding of it. So we're really going to get into that. But first, I would love to ask you, what was the personal or professional moment that led you to creating Bond Health, and what is your mission with it?
Hmm. So I think this is kind of an interesting segue. It's an original kind of random thought that actually has so much to do with the motivation. I would say, interestingly enough, I think observing the neuroplasticity that I felt from psychedelic medicine, I think had a lot to do with exploring and having curiosity around how much more I was able to concentrate when I was regulated emotionally. So I think being an investor historically before I started Bonding Health, I was very interested in the mental health space, always have been. I grew up on stimulant medication, which is another huge reason. But I'd say the combination of my exposure to alternative medicine and my exposure to understanding emotional regulation and starting to kind of go deeper into that, and then being very fortunate to meet my co-founder, Dr. Lara Hannes Webb, who is such a believer in strength-based approaches to ADHD and understanding your superpowers and being a star seed and all of this kind of these amazing concepts associated with ADHD. So I would say it is a multitude. It's a combination of a lot of different things. But what's fascinating is as I went deeper into understanding emotional regulation, I began to understand that ADHD is a dysfunctioning emotional issue. It's not so much associated with optimizing the areas of concentration, but more calming. The current approach to ADHD is we stimulate the brain. We actually, new data, very new data, supports slowing down the brain and calming down the brain. So what we're doing with millions of people is actually not the right way of treating ADHD. So our tool really focuses on reappraisal and emotional regulation. Reappraisal is probably my favorite because it's really neuroplasticity. Essentially, it's reframing your thoughts. So if I'm walking down the street, and you and I are very similar in this regard because we're pretty optimistic, my dad even
We'll
more
be
than me.
skipping
But
along.
oh my God, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful day. The trees are beautiful. That is a very positive approach. If you're observing things in a joyful manner, you're going to be able to concentrate on those things. The things that are more challenging are things that you are less excited about. There are also ways of kind of focusing on that as well, but that all of this stems from reappraisal. And in our lives and our day to day, we can choose to see things the way we want to see things. And that is very much a mind game, and a lot of people are stuck. And the problem with stimulant medication is it actually speeds up and creates more noise around that kind of thinking. So it actually makes you more dysregulated, which is fascinating. So I know this is a long-winded answer, but it's a complex answer. So in the DSM-5, which is used to diagnose ADHD, there's no coverage on emotional regulation, which is mind-blowing, but it's not that mind blowing when you start to realize the infrastructure of how it was built and how ADHD as a diagnosis was developed. New research, all clinicians who are well versed believe emotional regulation is should be the number one focus in ADHD. So that's paramount to ADHD being relatively untapped for this new way of treating it and caring for it. That's kind of been my excitement. And the reason that I started Bonding Health wasn't really I hadn't had the aha moment yet, but I knew just my intuition and my true instincts authentically there was something wrong here. And I knew that there was a different way of doing it. I think 5 years ago, I thought, okay, there's definitely holistic ways of understanding ADHD and managing it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually understand that slowing the brain down actually allows you to concentrate more, and then the side effects and all the other issues that happen when you stimulate your brain, you're essentially giving someone who already has a Ferrari brain a Lamborghini.
Right. Feeling drained, stressed, or stuck in old patterns? Panchakarma is Ayurveda's ultimate reset, clearing toxins, balancing your doshas, and restoring your vitality from the inside out. At Soham Healing Resort, every detail is designed for your transformation. Personalized therapies, nourishing meals, and deep rest in a serene sanctuary. As an Ojas Oasis listener, you'll receive $500 off your Panchakarma retreat with code OJASOASIS PK2025. These retreats book quickly and often far in advance, so don't wait to reserve your place today. Visit sohamhealing.com/panchakarma, and you'll also find the link and code waiting for you in the show notes. And in the Ayurvedic lens, when you talk about emotional regulation, I would think specifically with ADHD, I would think that specifically it would have to do with anxiety, overwhelm, fear, those types of emotions where things like that, those are the overstimulated emotions, which are the emotions of Vata dosha, which one day when you come as my patient, we will talk all about how the,
Woo!
yep, how the air and ether elements actually show up in the mind and in the body. And we're all comprised of those elements. And when those go out of balance, they show up. Even if we put Band-Aids on things, they're just going to relocate and manifest somewhere else in the body. They'll pack their bags up and then they'll move somewhere else. They'll move to your other tissues. Okay, you don't want it in the mind. Okay, we're going to go to your blood, or we're going to go to your bones, or we're going to go to your muscle or your fat. So because that energy wasn't actually addressed, or the imbalance,
Exactly.
the root cause was not addressed whatsoever. And that's kind of what I would actually love to get into the user experience of the app, the Bond Health app, and how the thinking behind how it was engineered and how that actually helps parents. Because at the end of the day, kids are completely reliant on their parents to learn emotional regulation, right? Unless they have teachers in schools that are teaching this, which unfortunately our mainstream education system doesn't touch that, which I think that there's huge potential to changing that. But at the moment, most children in the United States and around the world are pretty much dependent on their parents for determining how to regulate their emotions, and also making these executive medical decisions for them which often lead, it can lead a lot of parents to this shame spiral of feeling really powerless and feeling really like they're letting their kids down because they don't know the right solution. They don't know what to do about it. And their kids are struggling, and no parent wants to see their kids struggle. It's really difficult. It's like more difficult than themselves struggling. And so I have had patients over the years who have come to me and said, Sasha, my like one case, I had a patient who had twins. One was like a straight A genius student, and then the other one was really struggling, like total
Mm,
opposite. And the twin felt like totally inadequate because she was being compared to the straight A student twin. And then her self esteem was just plummeting, and she couldn't understand why she couldn't focus, why she couldn't focus in class, why she couldn't focus to do her homework. And then
hmm
ultimately, I mean, it is out of scope of my practice I can't tell someone whether to take Western medication, pharmaceuticals, or not.
hmm
I cannot tell people that. All that's within my scope is to say, look, we can address the root cause. We're going to go and figure out and investigate deeper why this could be happening. And then you make the empowered decision, what you think is best. You're the parent, you know your kid better than anyone else. So it's really important that we remove the judgment out of the equation, but it is also important to, I think, explain to parents that no, this is not your fault, and again, empowering them with the knowledge, which is what I think you're really focused on in your business. I think that's a really beautiful and important solution.
for sure. So in Bonding Health, in the app, the beauty of the app is it allows you to choose a behavior, any behavior associated with ADHD, and it takes you through an intervention that changes your perspective
Mhm.
on the behavior itself. So it helps to actually rewire your brain and reframe your brain, which is so important because we get so lost in that one behavior versus taking a higher perspective and realizing the beauty of our child in that behavior. Like if our child is talking too much, our child may end up being a public speaker, or our child may end up being, a podcast host, right? So there are all of these beautiful attributes that we we get stuck as parents. We get stuck in the noise of these behaviors. But when you see past that behavior and you deal with an intervention associated with that behavior, tell me about a time when your child did pay attention. If paying attention is a struggle, and or you get granular about when did your child fail to pay attention. Start to understand the actual behavior and when it happens, and getting more granular. So there are all of these research-backed modalities, research-backed interventions or components like emotional granularity that get to the bottom of understanding your child in a deeper way, in a more profound way, which enables you to be able to support your child in a deeper, more profound way. The tool itself also works for someone who may be struggling with ADHD. I use the tool themselves. So the way that the UX was developed was in a super warm way. One of my dear friends, Brian Hall, I haven't been as long of friends with him as you, but he's one of my best friends. He's a beautiful designer. And his whole thought was, we want to create warmth. We want to create a home for these users. We want them to feel heard. So the whole UX is very playful. It's very warm. It's very endearing. It's very encouraging. And that's what ADHD families need. That's what ADHD adults need. We hear 10,000 times more in our own heads than most people. And you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head, as always. With ADHD, you struggle with that hypersensitivity across a lot of things. This noise is erupting in your mind. The last thing we need to hear is, oh, he's ADHD, or oh, you're ADHD. Here's a special program for you. No, you say, you know what, you're amazing at this and this and this. Let's focus on this today, or let's focus on that today, or let's give you a map so that you can decide where you want to play. And it's encouraging and fun when you create that sort of system. So our system is really meant to create an engaging experience that's gamified. So you get rewarded with these bonds as you accumulate bonds in the app, and as you make more progress in the app, so you can track your progress. You can see how you're doing if you decide to. So we really wanted to give the power back to the families. So if you want to share your data, you can share it with your therapist. Your therapist isn't at the base or at the core of the platform. It's you. It's your ADHD. It's your condition. It's your superpower. You can decide, hey, I want to share these analytics. And it gives you analytics around everything. It gives you analytics around certain categories that you've chosen, certain interventions that you've chosen, certain behaviors. And that's really helpful in between sessions. So let's say I see Sasha once a month. Well, there's all this time in between when I see Sasha and when I don't. So I can get an idea as a therapist. I can see that that pen has been focused on fidgeting 90% of the time and 10% of the time. So it gives you context around that session when you are with your patient. So it's very beneficial data to get. And there's so much time that goes by. As well as I think the bigger issue is therapy is really, really expensive. And I think like there should be coverage for Ayurveda. Like I think there should be coverage for what you're doing. There should be an outpour of free assistance, but there just isn't. And no one has, first of all, people are booked up. So even if you have the money, you don't have the access. Number two is when you really need it, are you able to really call someone and get there and, hey, come over, you can come over to my house? No, you have the great specialists take 3 weeks to book an appointment, 3 weeks later than when you actually need them. And then the other problem is, it's really, really expensive. So that's really challenging. Medication, I'll just be really raw here because I want to be.
Yes, please.
It doesn't work. So the reality is long-term, you end up with comorbidities. You end up in a much worse scenario than you would have been if you didn't take medication. So anxiety, you end up with sleep issues. It's all inevitable also. Because as dosaging happens, as you know, and I've been in the supplement, so I can speak from lived experience because not just stimulant medication, I'm a supplement junkie. I've been obsessed with,
I concur. I have seen the cabinets.
You've seen my darn, yeah, exactly.
I have seen the cabinets.
My lab. Exactly. I'm obsessed with supplements. I've been obsessed with supplements since I was 16 years old. You can't take the same dosage for 20 years and expect the same results. It's impossible. You end up with a tolerance. We call it a tolerance, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up. It's a very known thing. So as you take these stimulants, right, as the dosage goes up, you end up with these massive risks. Cardiology risks. That's a new thing. New York Post, top of the New York Post, Wall Street Journal as well, with the problems in duration time. So after 3 years, stimulants basically just don't work. They're the same as if you're not taking any stimulants. So associated with the risks associated with that are you end up with tremendous anxiety, like you said. There's a regulation. You haven't root cause, Ayurveda, you haven't gotten to the root cause. You haven't solved the regulation. So the regulation is under fire. And the regulation is now burning, and it's burning and it's not stopping. It's getting worse. The fire is getting worse. So what happens? We're trying to put out the fire with a Band-Aid. And what is that Band-Aid? That might be an antidepressant. So you end up on Zoloft as well. You're also on the anti-anxiety medication. I can speak for myself. I was on 5 different medications. I'm pretty sure I look pretty, not bad now. I'm not on any medication. So, I mean, not saying I don't get anxious. I get anxious, but is it you don't get free lunch. So now you're on stimulants, you're on Zoloft, you're on Xanax, and then what happens? You can't sleep. So then you're on, and what is that? That's a really, really good business. So you mean I can have you on Bonding Health? I can have you on creatine. I can have you on, Oja. I can have you on, that sounds good, right? But when you're on 5 different things all simultaneously, it's a huge business. And that's the reality. that is the world we're living in right now. And that's the world we were living in 20 years ago as well. And it's really terrifying. The more that you uncover, and you're deeper in this than me, but like when you start to uncover this stuff, it starts to unravel and you're like, holy crap. Millions of people are on these medications. They're zombies. They're not awake. And we're like the wizards to try to like be like, Zoo, get up, get up.
Yeah.
So I know that was also supposed to be a UX question, but the UX is warm, it's loving, it's endearing. We're trying to make it better, but yeah. And then I went on a tangent, but I think it's important to note. It's important to note because so many people are just brainwashed. I think that's the word, is brainwashed completely. And I look at someone like you who should have 1 million clients, right? And let's amplify Oja. I'm saying it right?
Ojas.
Ojas. Okay.
Yeah. So Ojas is the Sanskrit word for immune system. It's the
Wow.
concept of your
Okay.
immune system. And it's also, so Sanskrit is so beautiful because that same word, you can transliterate it in so many different ways, like same with the word
Mm.
prana. But so it can also be translated as that which keeps you young, that which protects you from disease, that which uh, sustains your vitality, like the vitality protector. And we need that. We need that from a
Hmm.
young age. We need to build that resilience from a young age. And right now, the things that are currently on the menu in the mainstream healthcare system are just not inclusive of, the Ayurvedic, understanding, which is the most ancient healing, or really the most ancient medical system in human history. And so that in and of itself, the fact that it is over 10,000 years old and that it still exists, that's like really the only research that I require. And for, if something is that old and still works, time has tested it. And time is the great tester, because a lot of these more modern studies keep getting debunked, and they keep coming out with another study that says, oh no, never mind, that cholesterol is good, or never mind, milk is good, or never mind, sugar is good, but it's this type of sugar or that type, and carbohydrates and protein and meat. And so I really do feel like ADHD is an over diagnosed condition, and it is really, it's almost like normal to now have a kid with ADHD. And honestly, I don't even think you just need to be a kid anymore. I think most people probably have some form or are on the spectrum of having that hyper attention deficit.
Yeah, and let's dissect dysfunction, emotional dysfunction. If you have trauma in your life, if you have child trauma, you're not going to be able to regulate it. So it's a trauma response. ADHD is actually also can be a trauma response. And when you get to the root of the trauma, because what is trauma, right? We go through something, it changes the way that we approach life. It changes the way that we view life. Our mind changes. What is that? What happens? You're not able to focus because you're struck because you're probably focusing on that trauma. So that would be a definition of ADHD. And if we can, what you could do is if you relive that trauma, right, or you do some sort of intervention and try to change your perspective on that trauma, what happens? You end up able to focus because the noise is no longer on that trauma. The noise is on your reality now and your presence now. So we're creating all these definitions because it's a money grab. So anyone that comes in who is having a bad day, especially now that you can get an assessment. So the healthcare system, all of these startups, so many of these startups, they're innovating by accelerating care. They're not originating a new way of dealing with care or trying to transform the care model. The care model isn't changing. It's the exact same care model. They're creating generic drugs associated with those care models, the exact same care model, or they're just accelerating the diagnosis time. That's a huge problem. So what I've always respected about your work, and I and my curiosity and my confidence in it, and I'm going to be giving you a ton of referrals you're not going to know what to do with, is that understanding the history of somebody and what they went through is so paramount to addressing their needs and addressing their medical needs. And the fact that Western medicine does not do that is such a fundamental problem. And I know that because we deal with a score called the Aces. And in our work in mental health, the Aces is the most correlated score to longevity and it's the most accurate score of any score in the mental health space, but no one talks about it. And that is history. That is trauma. That is abuse. That is going through so many things that are so paramount to understanding individuals and understanding all of that isn't covered in Western medicine. You go to Western medicine, oh, your knee hurts. Let me, tell me how you feel today. Right. But the depth, I've always had so much confidence in your work because of the level of granularity. And obviously, I love you, fond of you, but also way beyond our friendship is the confidence that the confidence I have in that is, I mean, it's so deep, and it creates better questions for the patient to ask themselves. And that is so profound. That is so profound because when you start to ask those questions, the action or the modality, the recommendation that they give themselves as well, which is such an important part of healing and helping, is so different. Which is like really recognizing or almost also like not blaming yourself, right? Which is like, oh, I'm overweight. Oh, I blame myself. Versus like no, this is what maybe you had this setback, and this is what happened, and you shared this with me. And I think let's get through that first, and then let's try to address these things because it's so many times the reason we're not able to change is we can't get over an event that occurred. But it's not our physical bodies that are struggling. It's the event that we're not able to overcome. So, anyways, it's funny because our work, like our Aveda, is connected to my work. Like emotional regulation. It's all right. It's like as you get into this holistic world and this universal kind of healing world of just mind body. It's like woo. It just like is just a spider web of connection and energy and all of it. So I love your work. We're close to the end, but I just wanted to say the connection and synergies between our work is I don't even think more about synergies than I do, but I think it's unlimited.
I've been in this world for a while. I've been on this journey in understanding how to define health and disease. You can't really define one or understand one without the other. What is its opposite? Ayurveda understands all things in the cosmos under the Panchamahabhutas, or the five quintessential elements that all things are made of, and then those qualities, those 10 opposing qualities of those elements. And so health and disease, it's important if someone is feeling like there's something that is causing disconnect, that is causing lower quality of life because it's a chronic condition, and mental health is a chronic disease. We live in our head. Everything could be great on the outside, but if something isn't right inside in your mind, it doesn't matter how good you've got it. It doesn't even, like, the mind is a very, very, very powerful channel in Ayurveda, and most diseases, I will say 9 out of 10, 9, maybe even 9.5 out of 10 have the mind involved as either the cause comes from the mind,
Mm-hmm.
or the gut, because the gut is the second brain. So sometimes when people have poor digestion, it impacts their mood or impacts their mind, their ability to focus. And then the other potential is that it started with anxiety after a traumatic event, or depression, or anger, or resentment, bottling emotion. But yeah, the mind is a very important component of all diseases, not just mental health diagnoses, but all things in the body. We always have to look at the mind. And we're talking about the root cause here, but my I've got some curiosity around kids that are getting diagnosed with ADHD without traumatic life experiences. Like, parents might feel like, I don't know, they didn't really go through anything traumatic. I don't really know why they have anxiety. What do you think could be like lifestyle causes of that, where they could be lifestyle?
Diet is a huge problem. Also, narratives. We create narratives, stereotypes. All of these elements, all these social elements are huge components. Because what do we define as trauma? Our definition, everyone's definition is different because we have different baselines. So the saying of that kids will be kids, I think is really important to try to have empathy and try to understand and be patient with your children, especially when they get into those formative years of 10 years old or 11 years old, when they start to be more reactive. And this is why it's so paramount to have these skills, to have these emotional regulation skills, because the data supports the emotional regulation of the parent has everything to do with the emotional regulation of the child. So it's literally a mirror effect. And we're all mirrors anyway, right? When we're frustrated over something or we get upset over something that someone does, it's typically a mirror effect in some way. So it's so much about understanding that improving your own regulation is going to improve the regulation of your child. Maybe it's a past life. Let's go a little deeper here. Like, if they may have inherited something from before,
Right.
a life before, if you believe in that. You don't need to believe in that. If you don't want to believe in that, then you can believe that, hey, you know what? Maybe there's something under the surface, but this behavior is occurring. And let's change the way we react to that behavior so that our children react differently to those behaviors too when they have something happen to them. So it's so much about changing your own behavior, even when the focus may not be on you, making the focus on your action and changing the way that you perform certain ways of behaving. So I think that can come from ultra patience. It can come from ultra empathy. And I think the more that you actually reframe your perspective on their action, the more patient you can become and the more empathetic you can become. So it's actually not leading with being empathetic. Maybe you lead, I think a better way of looking at that is change the way you look at that behavior. And by changing the way you look at that behavior, you're more empathetic.
I thought it'd be really nice to ask this one last question for parents listening, how they might be able to shift from asking what's wrong with my child to what is my child communicating. Because I think what I love about this conversation a lot is that it's a different approach to understanding and just talking about this extremely prevalent condition among kids. So how can parents reframe this, and that moment where they get that diagnosis from a doctor, what do you wish that they understood in that moment about what that diagnosis means?
Such a great question. That's such a great question and such an important point to mention. The reason I think a lot of times that there is a approach that you may have resentment towards later is out of fear. So if you can reframe the fear and understand that something that may not be immediately constructive is going to eliminate that fear long term by giving them better abilities and better outcomes long term, that when you believe that and you remove the fear and you believe in this this reappraisal and this way of dealing with a situation with more empathy, and doing that, the more reps that you get in with, right, sometimes the greatest action is no action. It's observing, it's surrendering, it's letting go and being okay with what you've observed. And when you believe that that is going to have more progress, when you firmly believe that, is when the magic happens, because you're actually letting go, and you're also understanding that letting go is going to give you more wealth than forcing or holding on to something. So I think, to understand that, okay, your child is communicating this versus this is your child's behavior. Yes, it may be a response to something. And I think interrogating that a little bit more in a very present way, in a very calming and endearing way, is the way to go about that. And maybe you give yourself a few hours. Is it realistic, if your son is being violent, for you to ask him, Johnny, why are you being violent right now? That's not realistic.
Johnny.
So, but also, in terms of context, what we can do in that moment, and this is one of the interventions that I know Dr. Laura used to preach, and it's very smart, is you walk in the room if they've done something, and you walk in and you say nothing, and then you walk out. And there are all of these non-verbal and all of these incredible solutions that we can communicate. I think in that, when you talk about communicating, I think the way to do that, and this goes for adults too, take a breather. Don't react immediately. We make that mistake, and I have gone through my fair share of understanding this in conflict resolution. Conflict resolution, it's so important in the moment. Step away, step back, regain your consciousness, regain your presence, step back. You don't need to respond right away. There's no advantage to that. You're not giving your body, your nervous system, time to calm down, time to relax. Really important. And words are weapons. I say this a lot now. Words are weapons. You can't take them back. If you say something hurtful, you can't take it back. Step back. If your son says something, or if there's not a situation that's dangerous, step away. A very old tip was count to 10, and by 10 you're going to say something nicer. I think even more so is just step away. Step away for an hour, do something else, and then come back to it. Our nervous system is our kids' nervous system. If we're responding in a violent way, if we're responding in a very reactive way, in a very hyper way, what is that going to do to the child? It's going to rev them up. So it's very important to step away. I'm not a parent, so I'm speaking as an adult in terms of conflict resolution, something that I've spent a lot of time on and optimizing. And I would say that when you let go of the ego, when you become less egoic and you let go of the ego, why do we react right away? Because our ego tells us that we need to be right in that moment because we're under attack and we're wrong. And you feel wrong, or you feel blamed. So you feel like you have to react right away to be right. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not what it's about. The moment that you can let go of the ego, step away. And you step away, you come back to that situation or that conflict with clarity, and typically with calmness and with flow. So I love what you said about what are they communicating to me? And you don't need to answer that your own question to how they're communicating right away. Why would you? You take a breather. Why are they communicating this way? Maybe sit on it, sleep on it for a little bit, and then come back to it. If you're in a rush, your child's in a rush too.
I think that's it. So few parents are regulated, right? I mean, the lifestyle, the overall modern day lifestyle is rushed. And so many parents don't feel like they have the space and the time to take and reflect on the behavior. They feel an urgency to address it because they don't feel they themselves have the space to digest or to adequately respond. And we have to kind of one of my favorite words lately has been reclamation. So reclaiming our bodies, first of all, reclaiming our values, reclaiming what is normal, reclaiming, what kind of people we want to be, whether that's a parent, a friend, a teacher, a healer, a doctor, whatever your role, but you get to define how you show up to that role. And I think being a parent is one of the highest dharmas that there is, if not the highest dharma. It is an incredible privilege. And anyone, can figure out a way to be a parent, but to really understand the sacredness of what that means requires a bit more, space, I think, and inquiry into what it is that we're really doing. We're receiving a soul and we're guiding them from basically being, a tiny, completely dependent infant all the way up to at least 18, but then, I mean, even past that. And we're really helping to, I don't know if I want to say mold, but like in a way, we're chaperoning a soul through their stages of development and forming their sense of self and forming their relationship with the world. And it's a huge responsibility, not just, yes, keep this child alive and make sure they get to school on time and make sure they have something to eat when they get home, but also we are responsible for a lot of their experience, a lot of their ability to digest what they're experiencing. They come home and they're looking at us, the adults. And that's not something that over the course of history we've always been as openly, consciously talking about as a society. And I think that you mentioned earlier in the conversation how people are waking up and realizing culturally we can reclaim this to be a normal conversation and to expand what it is we believe being a parent means. And it does go beyond parenting. Of course, like all of us want to have that grace of not of talking to each other in a regulated way. Like no one wants to be like snapped at, Of course we're not perfect and none of us are perfect. All of us experience stress in some moments. We're in this together. So we all need that ability to when someone reacts to you and snaps at you in kind of like a whoa, that definitely wasn't about me. Like that okay, they're having a bad day or something. Like let's just leave the room, give them a couple days. Hopefully they come back and apologize and you'll be like, yeah, dude, no problem. Like I get it. We've all been there. You know what I mean? But not getting consumed and reactive, I think, is one of the most important things for parents to understand. So critical.
Critical. And understanding that your reaction manifests. When you start to realize that the surrender and letting go allows you to have consistency across the board in terms of a higher consciousness and a higher just when you start to realize that and you start to realize like this Zen state, like there's a reason that people who are super calm, they are at a very, very high frequency because they've let go and surrendered. It's not that they're having a better day. And it's really important to create safety. And I love the inquiry that you said, because that's so much of our act is self-inquiry. And it's also understanding, inquiring about your child also. But yeah, and the sacredness, like you said, that was beautifully put. It's very sacred. And you should treat yourself as a sacred being also. We're so tough on ourselves and we're so hard on ourselves. And I can speak to so much of myself of like looking into the future all the time, striving for all of these things. But the moment that I've surrendered, and it's been a journey, but the surrender is the beauty. Because then you appreciate the present moment and you're not searching for a future moment all the time and looking for a future moment. You're really conscious. And when you're conscious, you're also able to you're so much more regulated. You're able to manage things so much so much more, because you're not in this mode of looking. You're here, you're present. And that presence is critical. And I think it also has a lot to do with parenting, right? Because if you're somewhere else, your child is going to know, like, that the energy manifests, right? So it's physics. I think people want to fight manifestation. It's physics. We're energy. We emit energy, like, physically. So our bodies, if we are in a state of mind where we are at a high frequency, that's going to emit energy. So when our energy is in a flow state, we can actually calm people down who have a low frequency. We can improve
quantum physics.
Exactly. We can improve their energy and their frequency. So if someone lashes out, best thing you can do, give them a hug. Heighten their frequency. It's hard to do, but it's a lot more comforting when you start to observe things that way. And I mean, it's so important, because it's mostly fear. It's mostly fear that's holding us back. And that fear is not about things that are happening right now. It has nothing to do with anything that's reality. It's typically something that is going to happen later and hasn't ever happened and probably won't ever happen ever. So we're fearful of something that's never happened. Or we're fearful of something that we can't control that already happened.
We're afraid of that repeating.
Exactly.
So we're trying desperately to prevent past hurts, past injuries, because we're so afraid of that pain, where instead of avoiding that pain, Penn, we know this in the healing world, you've got to face that dragon, baby. You got to face that dragon. You cannot run your whole life away from that thing. You're feeding it every time you keep running. You're telling it, I am not strong enough. It's stronger than me. Your fear is completely dependent on you to even exist in your body. So as soon as you decide to turn around, walk up to that thing and slay that. And by the way, what you might end up coming to realize in that journey is that dragon never even really wanted to hurt you. It just wanted you to hug it. It wanted you to sit and be friends with it and be like, it's gonna be okay.
So true.
Right?
I think one huge thing that I want to mention as we close, I want to mention that there are so many things that we view as delicacies. There are so many things that we spend our money on. There are so many financial commitments. We may eat 4 or 5 times in a day. We may spend money on going to movies. We may spend money on flashy clothes. Why are we not spending money on our healing? Spending money on Sasha Brzezinski, spending money going to bondinghealth.com and getting affordable ADHD solutions, going in a cold plunge. We need to wake up as a society, and we need to spend our financial dollars in a higher frequency way. And there is corruption happening in our society. We have been brainwashed to think that the way we spend our money is on materialistic items or on things that are not positively manifesting and helping our longevity. These are modalities, and they should be requirements. And in our society, so few people are spending their money in the right way. And it should be such a priority. And I just wanted to end, or have close to the end, be focused, really focused on this. Go to your website, go to Sasha's website. You should spend your money this way. It's such a tragedy that people have the funds to heal themselves. It's the best gift you can give yourself, the very best gift you can give yourself. And people are spending their money on nonsense. So it should be a requirement. I think bondinghealth.com as well. Bonding Health should be a requirement. It's $10 a month. You spend $10 on a coffee each day, right? So, I mean, I think I'm excited for a world where people prioritize these things. I've been victim of not prioritizing these things. We've all been there. We've awoken to the fact that a lot of these things are nearly free, or they're a financial commitment that are going to make you so much more successful long term, so much more successful for all of those people out there who don't have children. Going to Sasha, going to our website, I'm telling you, that's going to make you such a better person and allow you to show up in such a different way for your children. So start awakening to this. I think there's going to be a lot more information on your website and a lot more in these podcasts about what Ayurveda is, what that means. I think a lot of people out there are searching for solutions. I know this one works. There's a lot of BS out there. So if you're listening, please just do the research and understand, do your own due diligence so that you can truly understand the magnitude of her work and why it's so special, because it really, really is. And it works. So it's a far better investment than taking medication to try to change or alter your personality because you're not proud of yourself or something, or you don't think you're good enough. Let's get to the root of the problem. Let's actually solve. And you weren't born a person that you don't like. You are capable of anything, and you gotta prioritize. We need to prioritize these kind of healing solutions. No one, I mean, the money that's being spent on complete nonsense and socially acceptable as well. So let's put this first. And anyway, I just wanted to say that this is it's so important. It's so important.
Thank you so much, Penn. I feel like we should have been focused on you and how amazing you are this whole time. But I'm not surprised, because from the moment we met, you've always just been incredibly supportive of me. And again, this is just like a love fest and an alignment that we've had from the beginning of our friendship. And thank you so much for seeing what I'm doing out here, boots on the ground. It's a fight worth fighting. We have a lot at stake. People are suffering, and it's ironic that they're suffering in ways that are more complex than ever before, despite our lives in many ways being way more convenient and streamlined than they've ever been. And yet, people are feeling this disconnect from who they are. And to just, I think I also, to close, and for those wondering, okay, like, how does Ayurveda work in a nutshell? Many of our listeners know this, but maybe some of your community that's going to be listening to this episode. In a nutshell, Ayurveda is all about that curiosity and inquiry, self-inquiry, to understanding, who am I? What does this body need? My body, mine, just the one that I'm living in for this lifetime. Who am I really? What is my true nature? And how can I live in alignment with that nature through my lifestyle, so that you can prevent disease, so that you can live the longest life possible? So, this is the original longevity science. This is the original biohacking. Everything piggybacked off of Ayurveda. Ayurveda was the OG, and it has worked for thousands of years because it works on the level of the elements, which is the most subtle place to begin understanding, what are we? What is this body? What is this mind? What is this life? Why are we here? We go into, I mean, what is more spiritual than asking the question, who am I? What is more worth your time, right? To like just understanding yourself. And if you're not feeling good, it's because there's an alignment problem. So there are decisions that you're making that are actually not really true to who you feel you are, that really matter to you. So Ayurvedic, working with an Ayurvedic doctor, is not just symptom management. No, it's reversing the root causes of symptoms, preventing symptoms from appearing, and living until 100 years old, at least the bare minimum, and living in a body that you feel incredible in. And your relationship with your life changes because you're understanding how to make decisions from that regulation, from that alignment, from a place of calm. And then your life starts looking different. So this is a transformation container. It's a healing container. It's been around for so many thousands of years, and it was channeled from the divine. It is not a man-made system. There were sages, ancient sages, mystics that channeled this in states of very, very, very deep meditation in the Himalayas.
Exactly. We're star seeds. We're the modern generation of those. And we're here to spread the word. We're here to guide, and we're here to lead, and we're here to be a voice for those people that are on the cusp. They're looking for something. They feel this instinct, right? This instinctual feeling that we once felt, that now we're leading, but before that we were on the edge of our seats, right? We were at the boundaries of making that catalytic moment of deciding and stepping into it. And there's so many folks now who are at that gate, and it's our job to push them through, right? So I love what you're doing. It's so collaborative, and let's do it more. Thank you so much, Sasha. I really, I'm so grateful. It's infinite gratitude, and it's going to manifest.
It always does. And thank you for coming on. Can't wait for this episode to go live. Yeah, stay tuned. Penn is going to keep building Bonding Health, and we're just going to, support parents out there and also children out there who are struggling with this. And this is the first conversation of many on this topic because of its prevalence. It's very important that we keep drawing attention to it and changing the perspective on ADHD. All right, my sweet, sweet friend, have an amazing rest of your day. And as always, it's been a joy to connect with you. Before you go, if you're ready to dive deeper into your healing, check the show notes to book a 45-minute exploratory call with me. If you mention you're a subscriber of the podcast, you'll get 50% off your initial intake consultation. A 2-hour deep dive, normally $400, now just $200. You'll also find exclusive 20% discounts on trusted Ayurvedic herbs from Kerala Ayurveda and Gary & Son. Just click the links to apply the savings automatically. Ojas Oasis is a labor of love, a podcast born from a deep desire to share the timeless wisdom of Ayurveda, Vedic ritual, and holistic healing with seekers around the world. Every episode is carefully crafted to bring you inspiring conversations, ancient insights, and practical tools for living a radiant, balanced life. If the show has nourished your spirit, helped you feel more seen, or guided you on your healing path, you can now support our work by buying us a coffee or golden milk. Your support goes directly toward producing high-quality episodes, keeping the podcast ad-light and mission-focused, expanding our offerings to serve you even more deeply, and whether it's a one-time cup or a monthly offering, we are so grateful. Click the link in the show notes to support the podcast and keep the wisdom flowing.